Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Vitamin C Show. I am here today with my friend Riley Shea. She's a lovely neo soul slash R&B artist in Orlando, and today we're going to be talking about freelancing music versus studying it in college and how Riley has at least been able to do freelancing as an artist. So first, I'll go ahead and talk about like how we met. We met in high school in 10th grade, and I remember we were in chorus class, but I can't remember like exactly how we met. I think we were standing together on the first riser.
Yes. It
Okay.
was something like that. But I remember seeing you, and this was like short hair fro. This was
Yeah,
short
y'all
hair
see this?
fro, Gabby.
This is grown.
This is grown.
Yeah.
She was up to here back in them days. No, but the thing I remember is seeing your outfit and going, I think she looks really cool.
Oh, wait, I might have been wearing overalls.
You were wearing overalls.
Yes. Okay.
You was wearing overalls and a striped shirt. And I was like, I think she looks really cool, and I love a new girl, and I want to be her friend.
Okay. Period. And I remember we bonded over the fact that we were both new in this class.
Mm-hmm.
We were both new, not to the school, but to chorus
Mm-hmm.
in that environment. And everyone in the room was not. Everyone in the room had been like acclimated
Yes.
to this lifestyle. We were like,
Yes. And it was
what?
intense.
It was so
It was a
intense,
bit
bro.
intense.
I felt like competition was all over.
Oh, for
And
sure.
they hated us. I might add, like, these people that were graduating, they had such a bone to pick with us for no reason.
Yes.
I'm like, y'all just mad we better
Just a
than you.
little bit, yeah. They didn't want their spot taken a bit.
I mean, but they were leaving.
They were leaving.
Boo-hoo. Like,
were
they
leaving.
peaked in high school. That ain't my problem.
Oh my god.
My first question for Miss Riley is, I actually wanted to talk about what neo soul is, because right before this video, she was actually describing me what that is. I had never heard of that as a genre, but I liked your description of it, so I think
Yeah,
people
yeah.
should know what that is.
For sure. So the best way I would describe it is if Chris Brown is like classic R&B, like it's typically not much of a focus on like live music. It's very produced, very like a lot of the times in classic R&B nowadays you'll see like more synthesized drums, like not live drum kits or stuff like that. And it's very almost sounds like a different version of like pop music kind of. They're using the same kind
it's
of
like a different
instruments.
sector.
Yeah, different sector. Definitely different chord qualities and stuff, but for the most part, definitely just very heavily produced. So the idea of neo soul, it was something that came through in like the 90s, and it essentially is much more of a focus on live instrumentation, and like I would say in general, the lyrical content is still like pretty similar in the sense of like R&B is sexy, you know what I mean? It's sexy. It's just
Sometimes they
have to
don't be
like
saying
that.
much. They're just like, ah.
They don't be saying much sometimes, right? But it's still sexy. But I feel as if the atmosphere is sexier, and then the lyrics can have a bit more space to be more mindful and introspective. Whereas I think I guess it's just it would be like me comparing indie like pop music to regular pop music. It's like the indie subsection of that.
Okay, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah.
So then, how did you know that this was your calling? I guess walk me through your journey from high school when you discovered music, and it was a completely different style of music, I might add. Like, we started in choir, which obviously chorus and like pop, R&B, jazz, it's so different, but there's so much technique that it can be learned from choir, especially if you've never really done music before. How did you go from that to like jazz, and then walk me through your journey post high school, and then kind of like where you are now? I know that's like a lot, but
Yeah. No, that's fine. I would say, so kind of like what you were saying, like as far as technique goes and like starting in choir, I also started in musical theater. So
oh yes,
I think,
yes you did.
I think it was kind
Two
of that
different
like
sides to it.
very different. Yeah. So I did musical theater, and then I got into choir like later in high school. And I've learned a lot of technique there, and I learned a lot. The cool thing about musical theater was you learn a lot about how to like emote through a song. And I think that was super cool because I started to realize the more I did theater, I enjoyed the aspect of acting where like you had to personify the song and personify the lyrics almost. But I didn't like the music I was having to sing, because the reality is I was always an alto. I was always an alto. I always sang
Even as a
lower.
lead, like
Yes,
I
yes.
find like most leads though are soprano roles.
Always,
Oh,
always, almost always. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we did Chicago my senior year, which was like probably the
yeah.
easiest lead to play because I played Roxy. But that being said, I started realizing I was like, and so I was a alto and choir, and that was where I started feeling the transition of like, okay, this is where my voice sits, this is where it's comfortable. But I was still like in controversy with the theater aspect because I felt like I was trying to push myself so hard and play characters that I didn't really feel connected to, but I always felt really connected to the music, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I loved performing. That's what was like clear to me.
Did you like performing more in musical theater and choir? It's very different. So
That's a good question.
because like I will add before you answer that question, we had a very exceptional choir teacher, and most people I can say that don't have the same experience that we had in choir. She was a choir teacher that actually like encouraged and promoted emoting emotion in choral music, and
Yes.
you almost never see that. Almost you see a chorus standing, on the risers performing, and they're usually very serious.
Very, very
And it's just
serious. They're
like
not having much fun.
nothing. Like, okay, you can love the song, but you see nothing on their face, and it was the complete opposite for us. So you had the opportunity to emote emotion in both.
In both. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that was what was beautiful because it's like that was the foundation, right? Like the foundation was, and what was beautiful about our choir teachers, she was so grounded in technique as well. That was what was amazing about her. She understood the idea of emoting, but also y'all gonna have that technique down. And
Shout
we
out to
gonna have
Dr.
tests.
Lee,
Shout
because
out to
she
'cause she's a
doctor
doctor
now.
now.
Period.
But she was very heavy on that, and I think that was beautiful because there was that consistency, right? So the technical part, which musical theater will teach you a lot of that, and thankfully, Dr. Lee was also music
A part of
directing
that, right.
all the musicals. So I had this great foundation of technique and also always bringing the emotion through the song that I think really resonated with me. And then when I was a senior, I was asked to be the jazz vocalist for our Jazz One, which is like the top jazz band at our school. And that was what I think started really changing things because that was the first time that I was thrown into something that I couldn't predict, which is
Yeah.
really scary for
It
me.
was new.
Because musical theater and choir, you can study the songs and you can do them exactly as they are,
It
right?
was also new for everyone because I remember there had never been a jazz vocalist in
Yeah.
that class.
Yeah.
It was sick. Honestly, I thought like it was innovative and like I don't know why it hadn't been done before.
Yeah, no,
To be
I got
honest.
super lucky. I
Yeah.
got super lucky, and Mr. Cunningham, who directed that band, was incredible too. Even to
Yes.
just give me the opportunity, and that was very much like heaven sent because I remember day one being in there. I was asked to like, what's the word? Improvise.
Like scat?
Yeah, like scat and improvise. Day one, and it was like. It was just this expectation because he was kind of a hard ass, you know what I
Yes,
mean? He was
no,
he
not
was definitely
kind of.
kind to me, very warm to me, and I don't know if he always treated everyone else like that, but I think I got a little bit of
Yeah.
because I think he knew I was nervous, you know what I mean? So he was super super kind to me, but from day one I was having to learn how to improvise, which was something I had never done, and one of those things that you can't really predict, and you kind of just have to start studying the greats and start studying the people who have done it before to learn. And so that's when I feel like I really started to study jazz music and R&B music and soul music. To be completely honest with you, I started smoking weed then too. So it was the perfect segue into like, it was like, okay, I'm already going to listen to this while I'm high.
Yeah.
So it was a perfect segue into getting into all of that. And so some of the first people I was introduced to was Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, Hiatus Coyote, Moonchild, like all these people who were
Did you do
some
this
of the
by yourself, or did he
no,
introduce you?
absolutely
to
not.
this?
It wasn't him. It was just the people in the class.
Oh,
like some of the
okay. They
friends I
put you
started
on.
making, they put me on because I happened to become really close friends
Yeah.
with some of the people in there. And I had been listening to maybe like alternative R&B, like the internet and like alternative hip hop, I would say. But that was when I really started realizing, okay, I got to study these people to really understand how to sing this music. And that's what started the journey. And I'll never forget. So I was improvising every day, right? Every day. And I was surprisingly getting pretty good at it. Like I
Yeah.
had kind of an ear for it, which I've always kind of had a really good ear for music and for writing. So that's when I started realizing it's like, okay, if I can improvise, maybe I'm able to write music. You know what I mean? But after just studying a lot that year, I remember this moment, and it was we were playing Wind Machine, and that's like a big band jazz tune. And I remember sitting in there, and it was beautiful because every day I would sit like right in the middle of the band. Like there was no separation. You know what I mean? I was able to like fully be in the middle of like the pit of everything that was happening. And I remember hearing them play and all the horn sections just moving together. And I remember I just broke down into tears, and I thought, this is what I have to do. Like I
Oh,
have to do this.
that's
And it
so
was something
wholesome.
about just, yeah. There's no, and I say that because there's no like crazier feeling than seeing a big band like that and seeing how all the parts move together, but how creatively written each part is and how they all move together. And it's different than choir in the sense of like there's a like obviously like the spirituals that we would do in choir, you get that feeling. You get that feeling of like there's soul to it. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of there's life and there's pain inside of this. You know what I mean? But something about, yeah, just getting to hear big band every single day was just
A gift.
seriously moving. Oh, it was absolutely like one of the biggest gifts ever. And so I remember that day. I remember that day, and I remember thinking, this is the happiest I've ever been. Like this is the
Wow.
music I'm supposed to be surrounded by and a part of. And so from that day forward, I remember I changed all of my college applications to music school. And I was like, I want to try and do this. Given this is like
When
November. This is
no.
like November. I started this class, and when did school start? August.
Yeah.
It's been like 4 months. Like it's been like 4 months of me like
Oh,
doing
this
jazz
revelation,
music
honestly.
and deciding to like change the whole trajectory.
And what were you doing, or what had you originally applied for reference?
I remember I really wanted to major in history. Like
What-
I was really
History
interested
really
in
wasn't
history.
it journalism, or was it?
It was like something in combination with
Okay.
that because I did newspaper and like a lot of graphic design and a lot of journalism, but I always really loved history. But that's the whole thing. Like my whole journey in high school and discovering all of this was I was super book smart, and I was super like,
yes.
so I just thought I got to find whatever book smart thing I'm best at, which at the time was history, and try and do something with that. But then I joined the jazz class, and like I really feel like it changed everything.
And so you changed your applications, and then what happened here? Did you audition?
So I
you not?
did.
Okay.
I only auditioned at two schools because
Okay.
I had I didn't want to go to a school outside of Florida. I wanted to
Right.
like be close to my family, and I also had like money kind of set aside to go to a Florida school. And so I auditioned at FSU, and I auditioned at University of Miami. And the University of Miami experience was crazy.
I've always said she should have gone there, stayed there, because like,
I wish,
and I'll talk about this another day, but I did go there for a semester, and like, if it had not been for the financial strain, like I thought about like going to grad school there. Like I know that's where I was supposed to be. It was the best. If you describe a college experience, that was the place I was supposed to have the college experience. Like it
I
was,
love that.
and they had an amazing jazz program, because I remember when I did go to that semester, they made us also like go see their performances. And I remember, I think I texted you actually. I was watching them, and afterwards I texted and I was like, I just listened to this whole thing, and like all I kept seeing or imagining was you there.
Aw,
Like
that's so sweet.
I was like, why didn't you do it? And then that's when
Yeah.
at that time when I texted you, I think you told me what you're about to tell them.
Yeah. No, essentially, so I was super blessed, and I was chosen out of like a group of like 10 people to come with whoever was running the program and see the behind the scenes of it. I got to see the jazz vocal group like record in real time, just to get more of a feel for it. And I ended up getting like a 60-70% ride to the school for the jazz program,
Yeah.
which was super small. And so that was super just like validating and like confirmation too. Like okay, that makes no sense. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I've literally been doing this for 4 months. There is no fucking reason I should have been accepted
You
into the
should.
jazz vocal program, because I remember being there and I was like, everyone around me was super studied. You know what I mean? Like, they had been doing jazz vocal competitions since they were young, and it was like, it was intense. You know what I mean? It was intense. But that being said, the money wasn't moneying, child.
No.
The money was not moneying.
No, because
even
the
a
same thing
ride
happened to me.
there, even a 60-70% ride there, it don't cover it. It don't cover it.
No, because,
Aside,
like-
not, and then you can speak to that, but even just the cost of living
Yeah.
in Miami, there's no.
That's exactly what happened to
not
me.
gonna
I
happen.
actually got a full ride for basically all educational expenses were covered. That wasn't the issue. Living in Miami is so expensive
Yeah.
that because, and actually now that I think about it, some of the money that I did get actually did cover even a portion of the housing, and it still wasn't enough
It's
because
not
it was
enough.
so expensive. Like, in other words, even if I worked a part-time job,
Mm-hmm.
I would not have been able to live there unless I had like 4 roommates. And at the time, just where I was mentally, I was not ready to. It was a big leap for me to room with one stranger.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing for me to actually overcome, do after, living with my dad.
Yeah, I
there
get
was no
that.
way that I was gonna go post COVID, post my dad, with all the riddling anxiety I had, and find 3 other strangers to live with
Right.
that could possibly ruin my life.
It was too much.
No, way too much. And so that in itself, it's like exactly what you said. It's
Yeah.
insanely expensive. You're either there because your parents are rich or you're fully on scholarship.
Correct.
There's
Yeah,
no
that
in
was the vibe.
between.
That was the vibe.
Yeah.
Straight out the gate, I got that vibe. And then I thought to myself, do I want to be at a place where most of these kids are like at that level of wealth too? Because I felt like there was a like certain level of, I don't know.
Even
I
in
just
the School
didn't
of
feel like
Music?
it would be people that I would resonate with. In the School of Music, I mean, I didn't get much time to meet many people, but I think part of my experience in high school was like, I mean, I was friends with a lot of people I did music with, but I was also friends with a lot of people I didn't. And so because of that, I think I thought to myself, I'm like, well, I wouldn't want to just be friends with the music kids anyway.
That is
like,
very
I'd
true.
also want to
It's
like
so
be
cliquey.
friends with all these people, and I got the feeling that, and this is Miami in general. Every experience I've had in Miami has unfortunately confirmed this, but it's just, it does seem to be a bit of a cesspool for like
Very cliquey.
cliquey, very appearance based, which, it is what it is. I know many cool fucking people in Miami, but the general vibe seems pretty intense. So I think I knew that wasn't going to be a space for me, but I did really want to make it work because of the
Right.
money I got offered for it. That being said, moving on to the FSU audition, hey, that was hell.
Really
That was
was.
horrible because
For
I had to
everyone.
sing classical music.
Yes, they don't have a jazz program, right?
No,
Or
they have a jazz program, but not for vocalists.
bruh.
Funnily
Okay.
enough, they have a jazz program for damn near every instrument, but not guitar. No guitar.
Or
If you
voice.
play jazz and our guitarist, which is like literally the rhythm section, like there's no program for you there. Yeah, no, you got to do classical guitar. So I think that audition, that was bad. You know what I mean? That was bad because I didn't care. At that point, I was so invested in jazz and R&B
in
music.
Miami, were you like dead set on Miami that you didn't really care about the FSU one, or like?
I think I had high hopes for FSU because it was something that I knew and was more comfortable with, and
Yeah.
everyone goes there. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So I think I wanted to make it work there, and I did. So, I mean, essentially what ended up happening is I was rejected from the music school there. I think, funnily enough, I think it was fucking because when you had to write down the songs you were performing, okay, it's probably not just that. I can't fucking sing classical music. Like, that's not my bag. But I remember I left the audition, I realized, oh shit, I definitely wrote the name of that song wrong. Like the Italian,
not
no,
why.
like the Italian wrong.
Oh.
And I feel like it was just a show of like, girl, you didn't even care enough to memorize the name of the song. Like you
and
walked
these
in here
judges
and
are so
bullshit.
presumptuous.
Yeah, presumptuous. That's a
Yes.
good word for it.
I don't think my sister even auditioned because she like started applying, and she ended up not even doing the whole FSU thing altogether because I told her, I was like, every single person that's ever auditioned for this musical school is prepared, or at least I tell them, is prepared to know that the judges are bitches. Like, they're
scary.
they're very like cold. I think that's the best word. And they're cold. I've gotten a sense of rudeness to them, but it's just like, don't expect warm and fuzzy kindness from the judges at FSU. And I'm like,
Just
oh,
like, yeah,
okay,
that's
like,
what classical program gives.
No, and they just
offer
be
it,
thinking,
but
oh, like we're FSU, like we're the best music
yeah, I
school
don't
in
even know,
Florida for
child.
classical music, blah blah blah, and they would treat you like that, and it was just that makes you more nervous and it makes you do worse. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? So
Absolutely.
it already made you, because I remember auditioning, and I remember wanting to go to FSU at the time. I committed to FSU before COVID.
Yeah.
Wanted to go there because their choral education program is great. It's one of the best. And I remember after that audition, I was so like, oh, like I felt like
It sets the tone
yeah,
for
like
sure.
I felt like I could only go there because the program was good, but I actually had no excitement or desire to be at FSU because that environment already seemed so undesirable. And also, what the fuck is in Tallahassee?
Girl, we'll get to that. But there's a lot of Tallahassee. There's a lot of Tallahassee.
So continue
Anyway,
with the
so
story.
got rejected from the FSU music school, which was at the point I was at a huge hit to my ego that was absolutely necessary. And so what was I left with then? I couldn't go to UM, which I was invited to the jazz vocal program there, which was the dream, right? But the money was not moneying, so that wasn't going to happen. So I had no choice but to go to FSU and be undecided. So I went to FSU in fall of 2020, and I was undecided. And at that point, just
Which already sucks given the feeling that you had, the revelation, and then now you're like
and then
undoing everything
yes,
you
and
felt.
then to like step in and be like, oh, I literally have no identity and no direction, like at the school, like, and like,
and we're in a
and, like,
pandemic. And we're in a
this, like,
pandemic.
yes, and this like stupid shame of like, I was rejected from the music school. That must mean I'm bad, which we'll get into that because we're going to talk about kind of like the pros and cons of
Rejection
that.
is redirection.
Amen.
Point blank.
Amen.
That's
You
exactly
damn right about
what that was.
Amen. Absolutely. So I spent a semester there, went through horrible depression at the time I was there because the pandemic did not lend
No,
itself to
everybody
making
was
any
fucking
friends
depressed.
and any like any connections. All of school was online. So, it was
So you
essentially
were in your
me
dorm.
a dorm room.
Oh.
I literally spent 3 months in a dorm room pondering. And not pondering on
Did you have
good
a
things,
roommate?
bro. Yes, I had a roommate.
That's even worse.
And we're not going to talk about that roommate. Yes, I had a roommate. But we didn't really connect either. I mean, she was super kind. She tried her best. She tried her best to drag me out there and like hang out with people. But I was so depressed at that point already. Like, baby, it wasn't happening.
And
it
that's
was
how
not
I ended up at
happening.
UCF.
Yeah.
I asked them for my money back and whatever. The moment they said that, I was like, why would I pay to be in a dorm, to do school online, in a place 4 hours away from my family? Don't get me wrong.
Exactly.
I don't like
all
UCF.
All of it's incredibly destabilizing and disconnecting, and it was not
Yeah.
necessary for my growth. I mean, it was because it opened up my eyes to like how I needed to take care of myself, and I think that was a big thing, right? Like I realized how much of my identity was wrapped up in these accomplishments I had, and in identifying with, oh, I'm a good singer.
I relate to
I'm
that.
good at school. Because that's what high school does, and honestly, college too. It conditions you to kind of like find these traits and these skills you have, and identify with them very, very strongly. But what happens when those things are taken away from
That's
you?
exactly
And
what
what
happened to
happens
me.
when you're 4 hours away from your family too, and from your support system? It's very, very destabilizing. So I think it was the first time in my life where I realized I'm like, oh, I don't think I even know who I am without the music. I don't think I know who I am without the validation of being talented and doing
Yep.
every extracurricular and being a straight A student. And so it was super
That
super
same thing
destabilizing.
happened to me, yep.
Yeah. I think it happens to a lot of people when they go to college for the first time, but it was something about that combination of the pandemic and also just
And
I mean,
being in
before
a
I even-
field where you get validation from the
From the
attention
applause.
of the attention of others.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's performing is you. I mean, you doing that, and even if that may not be the reason you do it, it's still validating. It's still like you go up, you do this, and you get that reaction from people, and it's nice, it's fulfilling, and then you don't have it all of a sudden. You're like, well, am I even anything?
Yeah.
Do I even matter?
Right. And so I think I had to start figuring out what that meant and what the music actually meant to me, aside from like validation from other people or the high school conditioning of you were placed in a top choir, you were the lead role, you were this. And so that
Yeah.
started the journey of I had come home from that because I just needed to take care of myself. And my best friend Will, He was in the jazz band with me in high school, and he was like badass trumpet player, and one of my best friends at that point. And he had met a bunch of people in Orlando who were doing independent music, rappers, singers, videographers, photographers, all kinds of people. He was in there, and he was like this since he was like 15. So it's like he had been gigging out there and kind of seeing that school is not necessarily what prepares you to actually be charismatic and network with people in the
Yeah.
music industry.
He just went out there.
And I thank God for him, because he pulled me out of that hole I was in and started introducing me to all these producers and artists around the city. And so that's when I started writing music for the first time in my life. I would have been like October of 2020. I've
Okay.
been like almost 19 years old. I'm 23 now. And so yeah, that's the first time I like started writing music, and I still remember, it was so funny, the first session I went into, I seriously, by the way, I hadn't sang in like 5 months. I was so depressed, I couldn't sing anymore, which is hard because it's like a muscle. If you don't practice it, you lose it. So I already came into it with so much like anxiety and like I'm gonna be horrible. And I remember the only thing I could think to do, which is like not really what you do in a studio session, but kind of became my thing a little bit, was I just, whatever beat they had, I just went in there and I fucking scat on it. Like I was like,
So what? Yeah.
like I did that on the beat, and they were like, yo, what the fuck? Like they were like, they loved it, you know what I mean? And it was so funny to me, because I'm like, bro, I'm literally just pulling this out of my ass, because this was the training I received, you know what I mean?
The last thing you
The
learned.
last thing I did in school. And so when I started doing that, I started finding my identity a bit more, and I was really blessed to work with people who just let me experiment. Like all of the people I was working with were like hip to jazz and soul music, and so they were really down to be experimental and like try really weird shit,
I
because
mean,
they
you
were
kind of
all
have to be when you're in this field. You have to be open to anything.
right, but they were at like an insane level, like to the point where it's like, I don't, most of the songs we made in that first year cooking up with them, a lot of them didn't even have lyrics. It was just, how many fucking background vocals can I stack, what harmonies can I create, what sounds and rhythms can we put in here. Like it was very, it taught me how to think like a producer almost, and think like a musician in the sense of writing things, because I didn't spend a lot of time writing lyrics. I just spent a lot of time getting really strong melodies and arranging harmonies. And yeah, I was just super blessed to have a space where it was like, it was so free. Like any idea you had, they could make it work, because they were super experimental producers. So yeah, that's how I started finding like my identity and started doing it for real. And then from that point, I was just working with people every single day. Like every single day, anyone who was down to create with me,
Sign me
I was
up.
just down for it. I was down for it, and yeah, super super blessed to have found really good, genuine people.
So I guess that leads me to my next question. This is really the overall point of the episode. So you've done all this. Mm-hmm. You never got to see the side yourself of you studying the music in college, but you know
Yeah.
people that are doing it.
100%.
So do you think it's necessary to go to school for music? When do you think it is or isn't? Like, what are, I guess, the pros and cons of like you going and studying music professionally versus doing what you're doing, which is just learning as you go and just learning by doing and experience?
I think the first thing I would touch on is that, to answer your question of when is it appropriate or when does it like make sense, I feel like I can honestly say it depends on what you're looking for. I feel like I've seen people who go in there with a passion, and they come out with a crazy ear or a crazy knowledge of music theory that truly does help them as like arrangers or composers or producers.
Okay.
Not too much producers, because there's not many commercial music business programs out there that are truly
Right.
teaching people how to produce on Ableton or Logic and stuff like that. But I have typically ran in a circle of a lot of jazz musicians, and I've seen some of them come out, if their intention is to move into more of like a corporate world, or what's the word? Like teaching as well. Teaching is a great like thing where it's like, yeah, I feel like you do definitely need a degree. You're not going to be allowed to teach if you don't do that.
Right.
But But I think for people who are wanting to come out of it being an independent artist, like something like I'm doing, or they
Like
don't
studying
want
vocal
to,
performance.
yeah, like for example, vocal performance majors, or a lot of the time, sometimes even commercial music majors. I think it's kind of the idea of like you're trying to create a curriculum around something that seriously makes no fucking sense. Like nothing about the music industry path and being an independent artist makes sense or is like set in stone. So it feels almost like
It
kind
feels
of like an
forced.
antithesis to the point. Like,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of the curriculum kind of keeps people in boxes and tells them, well, the only way we know how to teach a curriculum about this is to set a foundation of rules and
Yeah.
requirements and ways you can use these chords and ways you can voice lead here. And so I think it feels very, it doesn't make much sense, like in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
That being said, I think the benefit of like going to commercial music schools and songwriting programs that are like good, really good, is obviously the network, because you're working with professors and people who have a crazy network, right? And that's what you'll hear everyone say who comes out of music school. Didn't learn shit, but the network was great. You know what I mean?
There's also the financial aspect to this. Why
And so
would
that,
I,
yeah.
and like going back to my one semester at UM, why would I drop $80,000 a semester to be here for music and then get paid probably significantly less than that when I
To
come out?
struggle, to then struggle for like a long time
No.
after that to make money, to make all that money back.
And
So
I
then
was doing
that,
teaching. Like
Yeah.
I was actually doing one of the things that,
like guarantees money. You know what I mean? It
yeah.
guarantees not a lot, but it
I
guarantees
never
money.
understood people that went in for vocal performance, and it was actually like, ironically, one of my least favorite classes when I was doing the music program was the voice lessons, the studio sessions. That was my least favorite class because I've always had the mindset, and maybe this is not maybe there's a partial truth to this, but I always had the mindset that like for singing, you just do it. Like you just do it. Like there's a lot to learn about how to be a better singer, obviously,
Yes.
especially with range and stuff like that. But the way we were learning it was like we were learning it for a specific reason. Like, for example, we would be learning something just to perform this one song.
Dude,
It wasn't like
right.
to be a better singer. Like,
And it's not teaching
You know
you,
what
to
I
be
mean?
any more expressive too.
No,
or like
it's not.
jump out. So that's why I say
No.
when I say it seems like it's like they're trying to figure out a curriculum around this, which ends up just keeping people in boxes. And I think going back to what you said about the money, that's the whole thing. At the end of the day with music, like time is money,
Yep.
right? And so if you have the money and the privilege to like you spend that money and you don't have student loans for the rest of your life, hell
Then do
yeah.
it.
If
Like,
you want to
you
get
lose
better, if
nothing.
you want to get better, you're not losing anything. Now, like I said, time is money though, so you are losing your time. And that's what I found. I have a lot of people who I talked to who went to music school, and they have these people working harder than fucking pre-med students. Like the
Yes.
credit hours for a STEM major.
Yes.
Imagine that, but
a little bit more.
like 15 extra credit hours like every year. I don't even know.
I was taking
I'm not
10
giving the right
credits
math.
a semester. I mean,
Dog.
not 10 credits, 10 classes.
Yes.
I don't know how many
yes.
credits that is.
Because that's the whole thing. It's not just teaching you the music. It's you have to go to like a lot of my jazz friends, like I had combos, so they were put with random people where they had to make a trio or
Yes.
or quartet or something like that, and they would have to play music with them, which is what is the point of that? Recitals, to show that you're learning the knowledge. Think of how many rehearsals they spent doing that
Theory.
though, rather than working with people outside of school
Yeah.
and working with a network of other people. That being said too, they told the craziest thing to me, the amount of recitals they had to go and watch for credit. They had to get a certain
that
amount
is
of
true.
credits
We
in
had to
watching other
go-
kind of music. Again, time is money. You could have been spending that time. First of all that time in combos and seeing other people's music at the school, which again, they're just putting all of these people in kind of like boxes and not letting
yeah,
them be
because they
very
actually never had you
expressive.
perform outside the school. It was always there.
No. And so imagine that on top of now, these people are trying to find gigs and network outside of the school, already getting no sleep doing all the requirements for this major.
No one's
so
doing it.
it kind of
Yeah.
doesn't, but they are. That's the thing. The people I've known who do this, they are the most burnt out people I've ever met because they are literally, because they're aware of the reality. They're aware of
That's
the reality
insane.
of we have to learn this curriculum, we have to fulfill the major, but at the same time, this degree is not going to land me a gig with all the people I want to play with
No.
and the artistry that I want to live out. So it's this whole thing of just, I feel like it lends itself to incredible burnout and just in general a lack of creative expression.
Ironically.
Yeah, it feels like it's like, yeah, which makes sense. I mean, that's a lot of school and a lot of majors in general. It's teaching you a framework for something, and if you deviate from the framework, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. That's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not how the school understands it.
Or a
The same goes for
job.
like psychology too. Like they have textbooks for psychology.
Everything.
And then therapists come into the real world and they're like, you actually can't attack some mental health problems with a
book.
textbook.
No.
You know what I mean? It's not 'cause
Everyone's
it's written
different.
for a degree. It's not written
Yeah.
for real life. So I think that's generally what I would say. I think the benefit you get from having the time to yourself, for example, like I've always worked a job, right? I've worked a job so that I have a foundation and money to reinvest into my career and to
Yeah.
reinvest into the things I want to do rather than paying out of school and then also having to work a job in college and also having to network. I
Yeah.
get to work a job, which is not fun, but I enjoy having money that I can reinvest into my music.
And it's essential.
And when I'm out of that job, I'm able to network and I'm able to perform and I'm able to go to open mics, which is what I did a lot
It
to
gives
get
you
started.
more time for
You just get
that.
free time to do what is authentic to how you want to creatively express, rather than someone telling you have to do it a certain way. So that's my 2 cents on school, I would say.
And I think that makes sense. School, let me say, college sets you up to work a corporate job. That's all it is. So it's exactly what you said. It's very foundational. It's very rigid. And I think if you're a creative person, you'll struggle with that reality
Yeah.
when you get in, because there's so many things that you want to do that you can't, or you can, but you have to do it outside of the school.
Yeah, 100%. It's expecting a lot of people, so.
So I think this is going to be my favorite part of the podcast. Miss Riley's going to tell us some stories of, I wanted to know some stories of what has happened to her in the music industry, because, I mean, you're obviously meeting so many different people all the time. And with that comes with stories and experiences that are like crazy, because you're going, at least if you're coming from college or even high school, actually, you're going from a really sheltered environment of this is a bubble, this is how it is, to literally the real world. And in the music industry especially, that shit is crazy. Like you meet every single type of
Every
person.
single kind of person, which is like beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's made me become such a more well-rounded person, especially
That's true.
coming out of like being book smart.
Yeah.
It's like you get thrown into that and it's like, oh, I'm like, actually all of these people are so different. You go from being with a bunch of people you're really similar to like just seriously getting a life
Everything.
lesson and understanding people's differences and understanding that everyone has had a really different experience, but they're all trying to like express themselves and like make
Yeah.
their dream happen, which is really beautiful.
And the point of the stories is, I think, well, one, they're funny, but two, everyone's raised differently and has their own point of view as to what is right and what is normal. So that being said, we got time for 2 stories. So I'm gonna let
stories?
you pick.
Okay.
I'll let you pick. I'll let you start with the first one.
Okay. All right. So I prepared and I have like 2 pretty strong ones, I think.
Okay.
Should I start with the big one or should I start with the small one first? How should I structure this?
I think you should start with SWAT team.
With the SWAT
'Cause
team?
that was,
Okay.
I haven't even heard the story.
All
by
right,
the
we're
way.
going to get into the SWAT team then. And yes, I know that sounds crazy, but that is what this ended in. So this was probably within like my first year or 2 of making music. And
Okay.
when in your first year or 2 of making music, you're truly taking every opportunity you can.
Yes.
Like, and so I had many a run-in that first year or 2 where it's like, yeah, I asked no questions about how this was going to be run. You think I was asking how much money I was going to be making? No, I was not. I was just
No.
grateful for the opportunity. You know what I mean? So I had this promoter that I had met at my favorite studio in Orlando. It's gone now, which is so sad. I will not name drop, but I met him at this studio, and there was another studio maybe like 40 minutes, kind of like deep into like random Orlando. You know what I mean? And he was going to have me open for an artist at the time who was doing pretty well for himself.
Okay.
Again, I'm not going to name drop, but he had like one of the most like viral songs on TikTok at the time, and he was signed to DJ Khaled's record label. And this promoter, again, I know nothing. He's like, we really want you to come through. We're gonna have you open for this guy. And I was like, hell yeah! Like I've never opened for someone big.
Too.
Yeah, I'd never opened for someone big. I really didn't care about the money at that point. And so I actually brought my whole band down from Tallahassee and had them come to do this, which is like a 4-hour fucking drive, by the way. And so we are getting ready for the show. Rehearsal went great. The dude ended up being like super fucking cool and like really, really like hip to jazz music, which was crazy because he's kind of doing like, I mean, it's DJ Khaled's record label. It was like very trap oriented. Yeah. He was crazy talented though. He was like a jazz keys player too. So it was such a good experience getting in there. Come time for the show to start, we're all set up. Everything's set up. I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was after I went on or right before I forget what. All I know is this is what happened. I'm chilling outside. I have a lot of friends I invited to this, by the way, too. And God bless those friends. For those of y'all who was stuck inside during this, I love you so dearly. Shout out to Alexis and Felicia.
No.
And I stepped outside to hang out with my band for a little. I shit you not. I am in the middle, like joint in fucking hand, mid hits, and all of a sudden I just see 7 fucking cars peel into the parking lot. Like peel into the parking lot. And it's a full house, by the way. Like so many people are in there.
And the show
they're
hasn't
selling
started?
drinks, they're selling everything. The show is like not started yet.
Oh no.
7 fucking unmarked cars pull into the lot and just probably 20 fucking people in ski masks and like again unmarked, which is like this is why I say it was a fucking SWAT team. Like there was they did not want y'all to know who they were. Essentially, I'm sitting outside. I'm trying to text my girlfriends inside because I'm like, yo, what the fuck is happening in there? You know what I mean? They got stuck in the bathroom while this is happening. And they said when they came out of the bathroom, the whole fucking place was ripped to shreds. Absolutely ripped to shreds. We're outside the whole time, so we don't know what's going on inside. Ripped to shreds. There apparently was an undercover cop there that was there earlier, and some dumbass was selling shrooms and ecstasy and shit under the table.
Oh my.
And offered it to the cop. And so,
wait.
Yes, the undercover cop was there because this place was already shady as hell. It kind of had a reputation for being that.
Okay.
But it was fun. It was good
selling
vibes.
it to the cop is
bro. So she sold it directly to the cop, and at that point they started doing checks on everyone else. Well, turns out they didn't have a license to sell alcohol there either. And so imagine my fucking surprise when I see female bartenders coming out in fucking handcuffs.
What? But okay,
all the bartenders were arrested, which
not their
blew
fault.
me.
No,
which
literally.
blew me because I'm like, y'all are the space is the one that didn't have the license for this, and now they're going to jail for the night.
A minute.
Like it was crazy, but I don't know.
That doesn't even make
some
sense.
weird legal jargon, I guess it was like they should have known that they were under a contract that like was not. It was bullshit, and that was honestly that shit really made me mad because I was like. Y'all
yeah, like did the bartenders even know about the lack of license?
Go ahead and round up the studio heads and stuff like that because they're the ones that put these women in the position in the first place. Anyway, all I see, I don't know what's going on. All I see is women walking out in handcuffs going into the cars. And so when I finally go back in after they're all gone, which by the way, they held everyone inside. You couldn't leave. They held everyone inside there for an hour and a half. It wasn't just like, quick raid and then they left.
Yeah.
Like no one could leave or exit or enter the premises. You know what I mean? So I couldn't even go in and help my friends. Anyway, dude, so fucking hilarious. When I walk back in there after finally being allowed, I'm telling you, like every decoration like thrown like to the side, like there's just like ripped open cans of alcohol just like flung across the room. all the liquor's gone, like all the things are gone. And so like if you were to be there and see what it looked like when you walked in and then what it looked like when you walked back in after the fucking raid, it was holy shit, dude.
You're like, where's
hilarious.
the show?
Bro. And you want to hear the funniest part?
Did they have you still?
The show must go on. The show fucking happened. The show happened in that dingy ass, ripped up to shreds ass room. Yup. It was probably like half of the people. Bro, it was definitely half the people that were there, which like I felt so bad for because now I'm remembering I did play before. So by the time the headliner, who's like literally signed to the record label, it's like, bro, it's like 30 people there. Poor fucking guy. And he gave a hell of a show. And honestly, kudos to him because most people who were in that position, they would have been Hollywood and wouldn't have come back.
No.
You know what I mean? But yeah, they didn't play. They said the show must go on. Because you know what? We already got rated. We're not finna issue a bunch of refunds.
No.
We're not gonna do that. That's what we're not gonna do.
That is so funny.
Yeah, and to finish off that story, that studio does not exist anymore. It closed down quite a while ago.
You performing, no, like one of the first viewing, you're just like, did you even want to perform after all that?
I mean, I was nervous, bro. I mean, that's the thing. I was nervous. I was like opening up for someone. And at that point, I'm like, bro, I'm not even fucking nervous anymore.
Okay, but at least it happened not while you were performing. Like, imagine, okay, if you were singing
God, like
and then the raid happened.
Mid-singing would be fucking crazy,
like,
bro.
Ah!
No, that would be insane. Like, stop the fucking show. Yeah, no, that would have been crazy. They had the courtesy to come during intermission at least.
Yeah,
but they tore that place fucking shreds, bro.
That is funny.
And I was just like, I'm sorry to my band. I shouldn't have had y'all drive 4 hours to come here.
I mean, you wouldn't have known, regardless. Like, okay, let's be real. Even if you had done the research on the place or whatever, I don't think you would have. Nobody would prepare, like, there could be an undercover cop right here, right now.
Because that's part of the whole music industry game. These people are not telling you, and that's why I'm saying, like, I have multiple stories. I'm debating whether I'm telling another story that happened under that promoter's discretion. But, like,
this promoter gotta go.
Bro, this promoter put me, like, in multiple positions where it's just like, bro, you gotta ask questions. Like, I know it's, like, really exciting when you're first, like, doing things and getting opportunities, but you truly do have to ask questions because, I mean, that could have, like, obviously nothing bad happened, but, like, if they're getting raided by a SWAT team, it could also put you in a position of danger. You know what I mean? Just for other things.
It could also make you look bad. Like, oh, look, you were involved in this, even though you had nothing to do with it.
Absolutely. So you really have to ask questions and be smart. There is no shame in that. If I could give any advice, like, ask fucking questions. And if the vibes don't seem right, and if you're not getting paid, don't do it.
Bro, that part.
Don't do it.
All this
it's not
and
worth
nothing.
it. All of that and nothing. Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
All right, so what's your next one? You're trying to pick. Well, I guess now that we're on the same promoter, we might as well.
I think we're just gonna go with that. I think I'm gonna go with that story. Just
fire, roast the fuck.
The worst part is he was a nice guy, man. Too.
Oh.
He really had the best of intentions. Or I don't know if he did. I think he had the best of intentions. He was a nice guy. He was just people are just trying to make shit work for themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when they see talent, they're trying to get in on it. You know what I mean? Anyway, so the next story. Same promoter. I mean, in this position, but he was like also my homie.
We just
so this wasn't even
guy.
really like a promoter's role. This was more like something a manager would do per se. But anyway, so again, like I said, I met him at a really great studio in Orlando. And so because the studio was great and I love so many people that work there, I think it was this thing of like by association, I'm like, oh, I trust this guy. You know what I mean? I trust this guy.
Even after the SWAT team?
I think, well, I don't know which happened first, to be honest. In all fairness, I don't know which one happened first, but I know, the SWAT team happened after because after that I was like.
You choosing to trust him after that is like, well, I guess we're bounded by
blood. Not doing it again. Yeah, exactly. So what was I going to say? Okay. So I got invited to a studio session and I was told that there were these people coming through. It was a rapper from Las Vegas and his management team was looking for like talent and they wanted to see what Orlando had to offer. And so he was just saying kind of almost like do me a favor back since I gave you like a show. Which
a fucking half-assed SWAT team again. Okay.
Well, to be in all fairness, I did one show there before that was like put together by him.
And it was good.
Amazing.
Okay.
Amazing show. Did I get paid? No. Oh. But it was an amazing show. It was my first show ever, and I was really appreciative of that. So anyways, there was like some trust there,
Yeah, yeah.
and then it's not his fault the SWAT team raided the place. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Anyway, all that to say. So I got invited to a studio session at a studio I really loved by these people from Las Vegas, whatever. They want me to come in, and he said he wanted me to bring a few of my friends, bring a few of your producers or like instrumentalists you really enjoy. And I'm thinking, again, not asking any questions. Hey, who is the rapper? I didn't even ask that. No, I was just like,
Lil
yeah,
Diddy.
yeah, sounds cool. Like I heard management team, and my ears are like, oh, okay, cool, let's do it,
The rapper's Diddy.
bro. Hell no, hell no.
Diddy party.
No. Thank God it wasn't them vibes. It was
Okay.
never bad vibes as bad as that.
Okay.
So I get together like literally like my favorite people. Like I think I brought like 4 people. Producers, some of them played instruments, and I was like, whatever guys, like let's just try it. You know what I mean? Let's do it. Again, none of us asked questions. We didn't know what we were walking into, but we all love the studio. So anyway, we get there, we pull up, studio's empty. It's like as if this person has rented out the whole place almost.
Okay.
And in a studio, there's like usually a studio A, studio B, studio C. C being the smallest, A being the biggest one. And we're in studio A, which was always super fucking cool because usually that would be like where the bigger artists were. And it's a super cool space. So we walk in there, and immediately there's just like this feeling of like intense separation, like between the rapper and like his management team and us. Like it
Okay.
was like there wasn't really much like conversation facilitated
okay.
between the two of us. It almost like you very quickly got the vibe that it's like, oh, like this, I don't know if this was actually a connection that you thought was worthwhile or was like to just show that Orlando has talent and that like we can do cool things. You know what I mean? But it very
Was the rapper aware of it? Or was he like
I don't even know, and we'll get to that because of the panel of managers. But it became very clear very quickly. It was like, oh, I don't think the vibe is there. I don't know like if the connection is there. Like it feels like you don't even want to talk to us, bro. Like it was like it felt like we were there to serve him. You know what I mean? And like which I think is what the dude who invited me to was kind of getting at. Like by the team of like, oh, their management team's looking and they want to see what we have to offer. It became very clear that I just invited 5 of my friends here to like serve whatever was happening here and not really to collaborate. And so anyway, it comes to the point where we essentially write like a whole song. Like my friends produce the entire beat for him. He's not adding anything to it, like not making any he's literally sitting there, bro got like cigars on deck, bottle of Hennessy, is drinking the whole time, which is like that's pretty standard like with like artists and like rappers in general. Like I'm not hating on that, but
That's
the
still
reason
crazy
I
to
say
me.
oh it's so normal, girl, it's so normal. Thankfully this is a studio you can't like smoke weed in, but yeah, people be smoking out studios too. It's just a thing, I'm used to it. But that being said, that's pretty standard, right? But it's like it felt as if he was really like stepping into like this persona and like was creating this serious separation between the two of us, which I'll get to the best part was reinforced by the management team who this dude's fucking dripped out, Hennessy bottle to the left of him, like I said, cigars on deck, shades on the whole time, it's dark as fuck in this bitch, and to the left of him is a panel of fucking Karens, like 3 blonde white women who like have to be like in their 60s, like 50s or 60s.
Where do they fit into all this?
Girl, you tell me. I couldn't figure it out the whole time, but
Wait.
that was the vibe when we walked into the room. Yeah, it's this panel of like Karen-looking women who were perfectly nice, by the way, but no, like it's like in what world did all of y'all meet? Under what circumstances did y'all meet? Secondly, and what do y'all see in him? Because to get to the part of where we were recording, I've never been in a session where this happened. Not only is the music being played at a decibel that, I mean, look, people like to have their music loud. You know what I mean? Especially like rappers. It's very typical to have your music super fucking loud in that bitch. But it was at decibels that like, bro, probably are one of the main contributors to my hearing loss today. Like I literally had one of my friends who was there with me the whole time in the session. We were there for like 3 hours. The whole time in the session, he's plugging his, he's like, every time the track is played, and it's like there was no one in the room who was like, oh, we see that guy plugging his ears, like let's turn it down, like you know what I mean? Like it was like
Was it good or was it oh, so it was bad and loud.
it was horrible. It was the worst, one of the worst sessions I've ever been invited to. Dude went back and did at least 30 fucking takes. because the booth was a little bit of a walk from the studio. So you'd do a take, he'd come back, and then go, I need to hear the whole thing. I need to hear the whole thing. He'd play the whole track, 3-minute track in totality every time at the crazy ass loudness, and then be like, nope, I gotta go back. I gotta go back. I gotta go back and do it again, which again is standard, but 30 takes was fucking insane.
Okay, but did nobody think to say, can you turn this down?
Dog. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like I really was so young that I didn't even think.
That would have been the first thing I said.
Bro, at the very least, we could have asked him to turn that shit down. But it was something about, I'm telling you, girl.
You're just intimidated.
It was the presence of them white women.
Not even the rapper.
It was not about him. They was pulling the strings. Oh. You feel me? They were pulling the strings whole time, and that's where I'm laughing, because the whole time it's like being like instilled into us as we're there that like we probably shouldn't say anything, or like it's kind of weird if we say something, because they're going, "What do you need? Do you need anything? Do you need a refill? Do you need a
hell no."
Like they were seriously like
they were serving.
I'm like, how did you get these women to bend over backwards for you? It was insane.
They were there to serve.
Like they was giving Dolly Parton, like Dolly Parton vibes. Like it was no reason why those two should have been the right fit for him to be managed by. Anyway, that happens. It was ridiculous. We essentially did the whole song for him. I wrote a whole hook for it. Don't even feel like I had a conversation with the guy. Just was there to like I said, basically make Orlando look good.
Like how long were you there?
Dog, it was like 3 fucking hours. Like it was long. Oh. You know what I mean? It was long, which most of the time was taken up by hearing him play the track over and over again and making our ears bleed. Anyway, I get a DM a year later from the guy. Never talked to him again. I don't even think he followed me on Instagram. I don't even think we followed each other on Instagram. I get a DM from the guy, and it's a link to the song. He released the song. He just released the song.
Okay, after this video, I'm gonna have to hear it.
No, right. Yes, you do. And I wish I could name drop, but I'm not going to. No subject line, no nothing. Just send me the link to the song. Like on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever it was. Wasn't my correct name. None of the people who made the beat were credited. No one reached out to me. I mean, he had a whole fucking panel of managers. No one reached out to me and said, hey, are you cool with this? Are you cool if we release this song?
Lawsuit.
How do you want to get your royalties? You know what I mean? No, I was just sent a link to the song. And I had a good laugh about it. A year later, I never thought about it again. I just so the song's out there. It's out there, guys. You'll never find it because it's not under the right name, but maybe one day I'll share it.
If you're big and famous enough, one day you gotta share it, because
of course.
That's funny as fuck.
Of course, it's hilarious. And I don't feel bad telling this story because you didn't take the time to credit any of us.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't take the time to credit any of us or thank us for our time or anything.
In fact, I would name drop.
It was like a very good example of being used. Like we were just used. Same with the promoter. The promoter at that point was using us. Yeah. So. Yeah,
it was like you were using me and I'm using you.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a using little train.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Well,
ask questions, guys, before you go into that.
I think this concludes our episode of the Vitamin C Show. If you have any questions for Riley, now would be a good time to plug your Instagram, your stuff, because I mean, there's like a section for y'all to leave comments on this if you want, but that would be so funny. If you do want to y'all want to reach out to.
Okay, my Instagram is at Riley Shea Kennedy, RILEYSHEA, and then Kennedy like the president. I post a lot of my music on there and just some life stuff. You can follow me on TikTok at Riley Shea K, RILEYSHEAK. And then you can listen to all my music on streaming platforms under Riley Shea.
Period. Y'all listen to her.
Yeah, I have a live album that just came out a few months ago, and a new single coming out in a few months, and lots of live shows ahead. So,
awesome. Well, with that being said, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and we will see you on the next one next week. Bye.